It's been some time since we looked back at a running back class, so let's take a look back at one that featured some pretty memorable names. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 running back recruits from the 2011 class and how their careers panned out. For this list, we're going to be using the 24/7 composite rankings. Before we get to today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you never miss an upload. If you love college football content, then this is definitely the place for you. Oh, and if there's a top 10 list you'd like to see in the future, drop a comment down below and it very well could be the next video I make. Kicking off the list at number 10 is Herschel Sims, who committed to Oklahoma State. He attended Abilene High School in Texas. He ran for nearly 2,400 yards as a junior and 700 during an injury-plagued senior campaign. He led the Eagles to the 2009 Class 5A Division State Championship as a junior, the team's first since 1956. He was named the Texas 5A Offensive Player of the Year as a junior. Viewed as one of the top running back recruits in the country, he committed to Oklahoma State. He played in 9 games as a true freshman, finishing third on the team with just over 240 rushing yards. Although he didn't have many opportunities, he took advantage of them, as he averaged just under 8 yards per rush attempt. However, his freshman season featured highs and lows. He expressed his displeasure with not playing in the Cowboys season opener against Louisiana Lafayette on Twitter, and was disciplined by head coach Mike Gundy. Gundy also said that Sims initially did not display the proper work ethic, but that it improved as the season went along. Then, in 2012, he was dismissed from the team for violating team rules. Then, he was charged with 2 felony counts of second-degree forgery after one of his teammates filed an incident report with the Oklahoma State Police saying that Sims stole his ID card, then accessed his bank account and took $700 without his permission. Crimes like this could get up to 7 years in prison, but instead, he received 18 months of a deferred sentence. Sims then transferred to Lamar, an FCS program in Texas. Through the first month of the season, he was Lamar's leading rusher with under 400 yards and 2 touchdowns, but a knee bruise sidelined him. Then, before the season ended, he announced that he'd be transferring yet again. He transferred to Abilene Christian, but had to sit out the 2013 season. In 2014, he played in 11 games and finished with under 600 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. In 2017, Sims joined North Texas as an offensive graduate assistant, where he helps North Texas running backs. Up next at number 9 is Mike Blakely, who committed to Florida. He attended Manatee High School in Florida, where he rushed for over 3,000 yards and 45 touchdowns during his career. Although he chose to play for the Gators, he never appeared in a game for them. He enrolled in Florida in January of that year and underwent arthroscopic surgery on his left shoulder, but he didn't participate in spring practice. Then in May of 2011, he decided that he'd be transferring. He announced that he'd be transferring to another SEC school, Auburn. However, he'd have to sit out the entire 2011 campaign. In 2012, he was the 3rd-string running back, racking up only 150 yards on 30 carries. Then, in 2013, he announced that he'd be leaving Auburn. He ended up at Hutchinson Community College, and honestly, after that, I couldn't find anything else on him, so I'm not sure if he continued football after that or where he's currently at now. Up next at number 8 is Mike Bellamy, who committed to Clemson. He attended Charlotte High School in Florida, where he rushed for 6,700 yards and 102 touchdowns during his high school career. He rushed 57 times for 343 yards in 2011 as a true freshman. His 6 yards per carry was the best on the team, and his 340 rushing yards were second on the team. He also had 4 kickoff returns for 60 yards. He had a 75-yard touchdown run the first time he touched the ball for the Tigers in their season opener against Troy. The following year, he was ruled academically ineligible and left the Tigers. He enrolled at East Mississippi Community College, where he took part in the offseason practice but was eventually dismissed for an undisclosed violation of team policy. He then enrolled at Eastern Arizona College, where he played in 2012, before he transferred to Fort Valley State. In March of 2014, he signed a contract with the Toronto Argonauts of the Canadian Football League. He was then released though shortly after, and that was the last bit of info I could find on him. Coming up at number 7 is Dee Hart, who committed to Alabama. During his senior season at Dr. Phillips High School in Florida, he rushed for an incredible 2,200 yards with 40 rushing touchdowns. He originally committed to Michigan, but flipped his commitment to Alabama. During his first 3 years with the Tide, he barely saw the field, as he had only 43 carries. In February of 2014, he was arrested and charged with giving false information and possession of marijuana. Following his arrest, the Alabama Athletic Department said that he hadn't been part of the football team since the bowl game and hadn't participated in any of the offseason programs. Police said that Hart tried to dump a bag of marijuana in a police car while he was being questioned for using a suspended counterfeit money at a gas station. He also gave a false name. He graduated from Alabama with a degree in criminal justice in the summer of 2014. Then he transferred to Colorado State, where he was eligible immediately. He had a pretty solid season for the Rams. He was voted second team All-Mountain West. In the 13 games he played in, he had 1,300 rushing yards with 16 rushing touchdowns. Instead of returning for his senior season, he entered the NFL draft, where he went undrafted. The Miami Dolphins invited him for the rookie minicamp, but Hart was cut before the season started, and that would be the end of his football career. I tried to find something on him after he left the Dolphins in 2015, but like a lot of these players I've already talked about, there was just no information I could find on him. Up next at number 6 is Aaron Green. He attended Madison High School in Texas. In his 3 years there, he rushed for 3,800 yards with 46 rushing touchdowns. He committed to Nebraska, where he rushed for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in limited work during his freshman season. He entered the transfer portal after his first year and ended up at TCU. Per the transfer rules, he sat out all of 2012. In 2013, he saw 72 carries and rushed for only 230 yards, averaging just 3 yards per carry. He was named the starter in 2014 and saw a massive uptick in his numbers. He earned second team All Big 12 honors, led TCU in rushing with 920 yards and 9 touchdowns while averaging more than 7 yards per carry. All 4 of his 100-yard rushing games came in the final 7 games, and he had at least 1 rushing touchdown in the final 5 games. He returned in 2015 and had an even bigger season. He finished 7th in program history for single-season rushing yards with just under 1,300 on the year. He also added 11 rushing touchdowns. He ended his TCU career 11th all-time in rushing yards and 11th all-time in rushing touchdowns. He was signed as an undrafted free agent by the LA Rams after the 2016 NFL Draft. Shortly after, he was released during the final team cuts and was signed to the practice squad. He'd stick around for another year, but would be waived by the Rams in September of 2017. In January of 2018, he was signed to the Buffalo Bills practice squad, but he was released in May of 2018. In August that year, he signed with the San Antonio Commanders of the Alliance of American Football League, and he was there until the league folded in April of 2019. Before we get to the top 5, if you could give this video a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. It really helps share the video with more college football fans, and it only takes a second to do. Coming in at number 5 is Savon Huggins, who committed to Rutgers. During his time at St. Peter's Prep, he rushed for more than 3,100 yards with 48 rushing touchdowns. He spent 4 seasons at Rutgers and had 261 carries for 840 yards and 9 touchdowns. After his time at Rutgers, he transferred to Northern Iowa for his final season of eligibility in 2015. During his time with the Panthers, he totaled 200 yards and had 2 touchdowns. Huggins graduated from Rutgers in 2014 with a degree in economics and earned a master's degree in education from Northern Iowa in 2015. Once he graduated from Northern Iowa, he spent time as the Somerville High School running backs coach and receivers and defensive backs coach from 2016 through 2018. Then, in 2019, he became the running backs coach at St. Peter's Prep, where he went to high school. In 2020, he went to the University of Buffalo, where he was an assistant coach for wide receivers. Then, in 2021, he was named the new running backs coach at UMass. Up next at number 4 is Malcolm Brown, who committed to Texas. He attended Byron P. Still High School in Texas. During his junior season, he rushed for 2,200 yards with 24 touchdowns. Then, as a senior, he ran for 2,600 yards with 30 touchdowns. He spent 4 seasons with the Longhorns and had quite the career. He rushed for 2,700 yards, the 10th most in program history. His 24 rushing touchdowns are the 16th most. He had 11 career 100-yard rushing games, the 7th most in program history. His best season came in 2013 when he rushed for just under 1,000 yards with 9 rushing touchdowns. In May of 2015, Brown signed with the St. Louis Rams as an undrafted free agent. He was released by them in September of 2015, but was signed to the practice squad. Brown entered the 2017 season as the Rams' number 2 running back behind Todd Gurley. Overall, he finished the season with 250 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. In 2018, Brown played in 12 games, rushing for 200 yards to go along with 5 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. Then, he finished the 2019 season with 250 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. He finished the 2020 campaign with a career high of 419 yards and tied a career high with 5 rushing touchdowns. This past offseason, Malcolm Brown signed a 1-year contract with the Miami Dolphins. Before we get to the top 3, drop a comment down below and take a guess as to which 3 running backs we have left. Coming in at number 3 on this list is probably the most popular running back from the past decade in college football, DeAnthony Thomas. He attended Crenshaw High School in Los Angeles, where he played running back, defensive back, and wide receiver. He rushed for 1,300 yards and 18 touchdowns on offense and collected 5 interceptions on defense while leading Crenshaw to their second straight city championship. Thomas was listed as the #1 athlete prospect in the class of 2011. Instead of staying local in LA like everyone thought, he committed to Oregon. While with the Ducks, he became arguably the most exciting player in the entire country. As a freshman, he rushed for 600 yards with 7 touchdowns while averaging 11 yards per carry. He also added 46 catches for 600 yards and 9 receiving touchdowns. In addition, he had 1,000 kick return yards and 2 that were returned for touchdowns. He was named the Pac-12 Co-Offensive Freshman of the Year, along with being an All-Pac-12 first-team selection. He was also named Oregon's Most Outstanding Player. For his sophomore season, DeAnthony Thomas was just as electric. He rushed for over 700 yards and had 11 rushing touchdowns while averaging 8 yards a carry. He caught 45 passes for 450 yards with 5 touchdowns and added more than 600 combined punt and kick return yards with 2 returned for touchdowns. He was a second-team All-American and a Maxwell Award semifinalist. His numbers took a bit of a hit during his junior campaign, largely due to him appearing in only 10 games. He had 600 rushing yards with 8 rushing touchdowns. His 6.2 yards per carry, though, were the lowest of his 3 seasons. His 22 catches, 245 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown were all career lows by a wide margin as well. And his 500 return yards were also the least of his entire career. He declared for the NFL draft and was selected in the 4th round by the Kansas City Chiefs. During his rookie season, he rushed 14 times for 113 yards and 1 touchdown, as well as catching 23 passes for 150 yards. He also had nearly 1,000 yards in the return game. The next season, he was converted to a wide receiver full-time. He finished the year with 17 catches for 140 yards and added a rushing touchdown. From 2016 through 2018, he caught 24 passes for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. DeAnthony Thomas was released by the Chiefs in 2019 and signed with the Ravens, but he didn't really do much there. He chose to opt out of the 2020 NFL season due to the COVID pandemic, and he was waived by the Ravens in January of this year. Coming in at number 2 is Brandon Williams, who committed to Oklahoma. He attended Royal High School in Texas. In 2010, he rushed for 2,400 yards with 33 touchdowns. As a junior, he added 1,800 yards and 14 touchdowns. He was viewed by some outlets as the best running back recruit in the nation, and he ended up at Oklahoma. During his freshman season, he rushed for 219 yards on 46 carries while seeing action in 8 games. Following his freshman year, he transferred to Texas A&M to play for Kevin Sumlin, who recruited him while he was at Houston. Due to the transfer rules, though, he had to sit out the entire 2012 season. During his first 2 seasons with the Aggies, he rushed for 650 yards while averaging 5 yards a carry with 4 rushing touchdowns. Entering his senior season, Texas A&M actually converted Williams to play cornerback. As a senior, he finished with 37 tackles and 7 pass deflections. He was drafted by the Cardinals in the 3rd round of the 2016 NFL Draft. During his rookie campaign, he had 26 tackles and 3 pass breakups. Over his next 2 seasons, though, he'd record only 12 tackles and wouldn't make any starts. After not playing in 2019, he appeared in 6 games for the Giants in 2020, racking up only 1 tackle. In December of 2020, he signed with the practice squad of the Houston Texans, but he was then released in March of 2021. Finally, coming in at number 1 on this list is Isaiah Crowell, who committed to Georgia. He attended Carver High School, where he was the consensus number 1 running back in the nation. During his high school career, he rushed for 4,900 yards with 61 touchdowns. He decided to stay local and committed to the Georgia Bulldogs. He had a pretty solid freshman campaign for Georgia. He rushed for 850 yards with 5 rushing touchdowns. He had 4 games with at least 100 rushing yards, and it looked like he'd be the next all-time great running back from Georgia. Then, on June 29th of 2012, he was arrested on possession of a weapon in a school zone. He was dismissed from the Georgia football team due to his arrest and all of his disciplinary problems, including a failed drug test. He ended up transferring to Alabama State in July and was eligible immediately. During that 2012 season, he ran for nearly the same exact yards as the previous year as he rushed for 850 yards again, except he tripled his touchdown total, rushing for 15 touchdowns. Then in 2013, he rushed for over 1,100 yards with 15 rushing touchdowns again. Following his junior season, he declared for the NFL draft. but he ended up going undrafted and signed with the Cleveland Browns as an undrafted free agent. Through his first 5 seasons in the NFL, he was actually a very solid NFL running back. During his rookie season, he rushed for over 600 yards with 8 rushing touchdowns. In 2016, he rushed for nearly 1,000 yards and also added 40 catches for over 300 yards. Through 2019, he rushed for over 3,800 yards with 27 rushing touchdowns while adding 117 catches for nearly 1,000 yards. In March of 2019, he signed a 1-year deal with the Oakland Raiders, but on April 29th, he suffered a torn Achilles during the team workout, ending his season. As of now, that's the last we've heard from him and his NFL career. Currently, he's a free agent looking for one final chance. Well, that wraps up this top 10 list. What player on here do you remember the most, and who was a name that you were shocked didn't pan out? Drop a comment down below and share with me your thoughts. Again, if there's another top 10 list you'd like to see in the future, drop a comment down below and it very well could be the next video I make. If you haven't done so yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you never miss another upload. If you love college football videos like this, then this is definitely the place for you. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.